Music, get it all. 24 hours on West Africa Democracy Radio. 94.9 FM Dakar.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and Banjul, 1 p.m. in Lagos. Good afternoon. Welcome to Newslink, live on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. ECOWAS concludes the 69th summit in Sierra Leone with major decisions, including the election of President Bassirou Diomaye Faye as new chairperson.
We must work towards reuniting the entire West African family, devote all our energy and resources to the community projects that bring us together.
University of Liberia faculty and staff shut down all academic and administrative activities over unresolved welfare concerns. Nigerian Army foils adoption attempt in Borno State by EDSWAP and rescues 46 students.
Not only rescue the people, they were able to deal decisively with them. But unfortunately, many of them have escaped with gunshot wounds and reported collateral damages.
Mali's government proposes changes to citizenship law to tackle rising security threats. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Thank you for being with us. We begin in Sierra Leone, where regional leaders and more than 600 delegates gathered on Sunday for the 69th ECOWAS Summit of Heads of State and Government. The summit focused on some of West Africa's most pressing challenges, including terrorism, drug trafficking, and transnational organized crime, with leaders outlining new approaches to strengthen regional cooperation. The meeting also produced key decisions, including the appointment of Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye as new chairperson of the ECOWAS Authority. He succeeds Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio. Deborah Amowo tells us more.
The 69th Ordinary Summit of the ECOWAS Heads of State in Freetown took place at a time when the organization is facing multiple challenges, including rising insecurity, political transitions, stalled economic integration, and the need to redefine its relationship with the Alliance of Sahel States. For the outgoing ECOWAS President Dr. Oumar Alieu Touré, collaboration among member states remains cardinal for the region's existence.
We recognize that our success would not be measured solely by the programs we implemented or the decisions we adopted. Rather, it would be measured by the strength of the institutions we left behind, the resilience of our integration project, and the confidence our citizens continue to place in the ECOWAS vision.
Touré's speech was followed by remarks by heads of state on redefining ECOWAS's vision as it celebrates 50 years. Several decisions were made at the summit, among them the election of Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye as the new chairperson of ECOWAS. Addressing regional leaders, President Faye outlined his priorities for the region, stressing the need for stronger cooperation and concrete action.
We must work towards reuniting the entire West African family so that we can devote all our energy and resources to the community projects and initiatives that bring us together. Strengthening trust between our people and their leaders is also an urgent priority. This requires respect for constitutional and republican order, reforms to adapt ECOWAS to the realities of our time, and efforts to strengthen our collective progress toward our shared goals. It also calls for a review of the ECOWAS Additional Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance.
Beyond holding the ECOWAS chairmanship, Senegal will also lead the bloc's commission from 2026 to 2030. Former Senegalese Defense Minister General Biram Diop succeeds Dr. Oumar Alieu Touré as president of the ECOWAS Commission. The new leadership structure places Senegal at the center of the bloc's future direction as ECOWAS seeks to strengthen security cooperation, deepen economic integration, and rebuild ties with the AES countries.
Deborah Amuwa with those details. Meanwhile, regional analysts note that President Bassirou Diomaye Faye's leadership offers both a challenge and an opportunity to advance reforms, rebuild trust, and redefine ECOWAS' future. However, with issues like insecurity, political divisions, economic pressures, and the repercussions of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger's withdrawal, how much can he accomplish in 12 months? Christopher Aticho has compiled this analysis.
Bassirou Diomaye Faye assumes the ECOWAS chairmanship, inheriting a regional organization facing multiple crises. At the top is security. Across the Sahel, armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State continue to expand their operations, attacking communities and military positions. The insecurity has spread beyond the Sahel, raising concerns in coastal cities. But security is not Diomaye Faye's only challenge. ECOWAS is also dealing with one of its deepest political crises after Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger left the organization to form the Alliance of the Sahel States. Beyond security, politics, and overseeing elections in Cape Verde, the Gambia, and Guinea-Bissau, President Faye is expected to focus on economic integration. With a population of more than 400 million people, West Africa has enormous economic potential, but trade between member states remain limited due to poor infrastructure, border restrictions, and regulatory barriers. His success will depend on his ability to rebuild confidence in ECOWAS, bridge political divisions, and transform regional commitments into practical solutions for citizens. However, President Faye's regional responsibilities come alongside domestic challenges in Senegal, as expectations remain high, particularly among young Senegalese facing unemployment and rising living costs. The ECOWAS chairmanship is therefore not only a test for Bassirou Diomaye Faye, but also a test for the future of the regional bloc.
Christopher Aticho with that analysis. Still on regional gatherings in Sierra Leone, President Mamadi Doumbouya of Guinea has for the first time attended an ECOWAS summit of heads of state and government after the country's suspension was lifted. During the 69th summit, Doumbouya strongly criticized the sanctions imposed on Guinea following the September 2021 military coup that brought him to power. Usma Uma tells us more in this report.
The 69th ECOWAS Summit of Heads of State and Government was the first for Guinea 5 years after the country was suspended from the regional institution. Guinean President Mamadi Doumbouya used the opportunity to criticize the sanctions imposed on Guinea following the 2021 military coup that ousted former President Alpha Condé.
Experience has taught us that sanctions first and foremost hurt children in classrooms, women in the marketplaces, and men working in the fields. They deprive hospitals of essential medicines, empty markets of basic goods, and ultimately punish the sons and daughters of ancestral land.
According to President Doumbouya, ECOWAS sanctions policy contributed to the withdrawal of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso from the regional bloc and the creation of the Alliance of Sahel States. He then called for a return to the founding principles of the West African institution.
Too often, our sub-region has made sanctions its first response when they should be a last resort. A community that seeks to correct a state by impoverishing its people moves away from the very spirit on which it was founded. Our African traditions do not embrace the exclusion of our own people, much less the idea of starving or punishing them. The vision of the founding fathers of our community was never one of punishment or repression. It was a vision of shared prosperity.
To restore ECOWAS credibility and effectiveness, Mamadi Doumbouya is calling for a deep reform of the regional organization.
A report by WDR's channel Alpha Ibrahim Baldi, voiced by Usma Uma.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The University of Liberia is at a standstill after faculty and staff declared an indefinite shutdown of all academic and administrative activities over unresolved welfare concerns. The decision was taken during a joint General Assembly of the University Faculty Association and the Staff Association over the weekend. The two unions also passed a unanimous vote of no confidence in University President Dr. Lai Mapayan, Acting Vice President for Finance and Fiscal Affairs Dr. Lester Tenney, and Associate Vice President for Human Resources Regina Gay. Details with Imo Edit.
Faculty and staff have been instructed to stay away from all university campuses until the administration fully implements a list of demands. These include the payment of outstanding NASCORP contributions, a 40% salary increase, salary adjustments to address disparities, changes in employee status, improved funding for university operations, and the fulfillment of other standing commitments. The latest action comes after an early ultimatum by the Staff Association, which had given the university administration until July 31 to address workers' welfare concerns. During the meeting, faculty and staff accused the administration of failing to deliver on promises made upon taking office. They also raised concerns over the alleged mismanagement of funds generated from student tuition and fees, questioned the reported expenditure of $15,000 for the university president's trip to Harvard, and criticized what they described as the continued neglect of qualified Liberian academics for senior leadership positions. Union members further cited unpaid salaries, the lack of medical insurance, unresolved retirement benefits, and poor working conditions as reasons for the industrial action. They also demanded greater accountability for funds allocated to campus renovation projects, claiming several projects remain incomplete. Following the vote, ULFA President Assistant Professor Alaji Dukuli declared the General Assembly's resolutions binding on all members and warned that anyone who defies the strike directive will face disciplinary action. The University of Liberia administration has not issued an official response by the time of this report.
Imo Edit with those details. Elsewhere in the Gambia, the future of media freedom and digital regulation is under renewed scrutiny as policymakers, journalists, and civil society groups debate proposed reforms to the country's communication laws. At the center of a dialogue organized by Gambia participants or civil society group, participants raised concerns over press freedom, privacy rights, and the need to balance regulation with fundamental freedoms. From Banjul, Rose Samarakates reports.
Organized by the Gambia Participates, the dialogue provided a platform for participants to share perspectives on some of the most contentious areas of the proposed legislation, including digital surveillance, false publication, social media regulations, and the responsibilities of journalists in the digital age. Ansumana Cisse, Gambia Participates Programs Officer, highlights the importance of this dialogue.
We understand that there is a communication bill before the National Assembly committees that we want the media stakeholders, GPU, to actually have a discussion, but not only influence their decision, is to put them into perspective, the realities of the media landscape, so that when they are contemplating or when they are debating on this media communication bill, they can put those perspectives into the discussion.
A major focus of the dialogue was the proposed communication bill, which seeks to provide a modern framework for regulating the communication sector. While stakeholders acknowledge the importance of regulation, they emphasize that any new law must strike a balance between oversight and protecting the fundamental freedom. Misinformation and disinformation also featured in discussions, with stakeholders warning of the growing risk posed by digital platforms. A National Assembly member called for a stronger media literacy, public awareness, and ethical journalism to tackle the spread of false information.
You see, I think as much as we want media freedom and expression, those who are also pursuing for journalism, it is incumbent upon them absolutely to also publish something that is very accurate.
As the dialogue concluded, participants called for continued engagement on media reform and urged policymakers to consider the views raised during the discussions as the proposed communication bill moves forward.
You are listening to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. ECOWAS concludes the 69th summit in Sierra Leone with major decisions, including the election of President Bassirou Diomaye Faye as new chairperson. University of Liberia faculty and staff shut down all academic and administrative activities over unresolved welfare concerns. Nigerian Army fuels adoption attempt in Borno State by ETSWAP and rescues 46 students. Mali's government proposes changes to citizenship law to tackle rising security threats. Still ahead in the news, we have the press review, guest interview, and sports. Please stay with us.
From the heart of Nigerian politics, this is Yeche Nisasitu in Abuja, and you are listening to WADR 94.9 FM Dakar.
Thank you for being with us. Let's now take you to Ghana, where debate over the proposed reintroduction of public tribunals is intensifying after former Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia called on President John Dramani Mahama to delay signing the Public Tribunals Bill into law. Flag bearer for the opposition New Patriotic Party says the legislation passed by Parliament last week should undergo broader national consultations. Bawumia argues that it could have far-reaching implications for the country's justice system. WDR's Nadia Tete completes the story.
The Public Tribunals Bill is one of the Mahama administration's key justice sector reforms. It seeks to restore public tribunals as part of Ghana's judicial system, with government arguing the move will help speed up the hearing of specialized cases, improve access to justice, and reduce the backlog before the courts. The legislation now awaits presidential assent before it can become law, but the proposal has divided opinions. The minority in Parliament walked out before the bill was passed, while organized labor also raised objections, warning that the country should proceed cautiously given the historical controversies surrounding public tribunals. It is against that backdrop that former Vice President and flag bearer of the NPP, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, is asking President Mahama to delay the assent process and open wider consultations.
I have one respectful request of President Mahama. Mr. President, do not assent to this bill. Pause and let the nation ponder and deliberate on this very important matter. This is not a partisan request.
Dr. Bawumia also questioned Parliament's decision to fast-track the bill by waiving the mandatory interval between the consideration stage and third reading. He maintains that concerns raised by the minority and other stakeholders deserved greater consideration before the legislation was approved.
Ghanaians remember tribunals, and we remember what was done in their name. Our courts are congested, yes, but the answer to congested courts is to strengthen the courts, more judges, more courtrooms, and digitized processes. It is not to build a second system of justice.
The NPP flag bearer says postponing presidential assent would allow for a broader national conversation on the future of public tribunals and strengthen public confidence in any reforms to Ghana's justice system. For WDR, Nadia Tete, Accra.
In Nigeria, troops of Operation Mahadin Kai have foiled an attempt at mass adoption of students in the northeastern state of Borno, rescuing 46 students. According to the army, terrorists from Islamic State West Africa province ETSWAP attacked a school facility in Monguno early Sunday morning. The incident underscores the persistent threats of insurgents pose to educational institutions in northern Nigeria, despite sustained military operations aimed at restoring security in the region. Well, in Mali, the government is proposing changes to its citizenship law that will allow authorities to revoke the nationality of both naturalized citizens and Malians by birth. Officials say the measure is intended to strengthen the fight against terrorism, but critics warn it could lead to rights violations and weaken legal protections. Francis Boniface tells us more.
Mali has expanded the scope of its citizenship law, allowing authorities to strip nationality not only from naturalized citizens of foreign origin, but also from Malians by birth, provided the decision does not leave them stateless. The measure, approved by the Council of Ministers, is being justified by the government as a response to evolving security threats. Authorities said the reform will target individuals accused of collaborating with terrorist or separatist groups, as well as former officials suspected of using their expertise or networks against the interest of the Malian state. However, the law's real impact will depend on how it is enforced. The reform comes amid a broader regional trend. Niger has already adopted similar legislation, which has been used to revoke the nationality of several opposition figures living in exile, including allies of former President Mohamed Bazoum. Human rights organizations have raised concerns, warning that any loss of nationality must be subject to independent judicial oversight and strong legal safeguards. The key challenge for Mali will be balancing national security with the rule of law and its international obligations, particularly those aimed at preventing statelessness and protecting fundamental human rights.
Francis Boniface voiced that report filed in by WDR's Aliyu Cham in Bamako.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Now let's join Yechenusa Setu in Abuja for the press review.
Greetings. We begin from Nigerian Tribune. House of Representatives panel to consider President Bola Tinubu's state police bill today, Monday. And in the Nation newspaper, Nigeria advocates a concerted response to xenophobia in South Africa, asking ECOWAS to take the issue from the regional bloc to the African Union. Also in the Nation newspaper, senior advocates of Nigeria, Oyinkanshola Badijo Okunsanya, declared president-elect of the Nigerian Bar Association, the 33rd president and the first elected female. Parties begin candidate upload, express confidence ahead of the deadline set by the Independent National Electoral Commission. This is from the Guardian newspaper. And in Vanguard, West African leaders sign agreement approving construction of a gas pipeline linking Nigeria to Morocco. This happened at the ECOWAS summit in Sierra Leone on Sunday. Lastly, in the Punch, fake agency scandal. Speaker, House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, inaugurates probe panel today. And finally, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency intercepts 1.63 million pills of tramadol, arresting members of a transnational drug trafficking syndicate operating along the Togo-Benin Republic-Nigeria corridor. And that's it on Press Review. Back to you in the studio.
That's Yechenusa Setu with the press review from Abuja.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Our guest this afternoon is Emmanuel Yeboah, a research analyst at the West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network, Wadr. In this interview, he provides an analysis of the prospects and challenges that Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye could face as new chairperson of the ECOWAS authorities of heads of state and government. Emmanuel also recommends reforms that President Diomaye Faye should prioritize to restore the bloc's credibility. Take a listen.
First of all, I think Senegal is one of West Africa's most respected diplomatic actors, right? Unlike some states that are being viewed through geopolitical rivalries on this matter, I think Senegal is generally seen as capable of engaging multiple actors. And I mean, if you look at Diomaye's government since he took over the reins of power in Senegal, in context to this particular issue of withdrawal, Senegal has not really been directly involved in many of the fragmentations or the divisions that we have seen to have polarized ECOWAS, right, over the past few years. And so for me, I think that he brings in that trust as somebody, one of the few governments or presidents within the commission that didn't participate in the lead up to the fragmentation or, the creation of the Alliance of Saharan states. So I think, first of all, that credibility is very, very important. And I think that he really must leverage on that credibility that he has.
ECOWAS has been criticized in recent years for inconsistent responses to military coups, constitutional crisis, democratic backsliding, like you said earlier. What concrete reforms should President Faye prioritize to restore the bloc's credibility as it marks years of its existence?
Well, I think his first responsibility must be re-engagement with the AES countries, right? We cannot afford to have silence on this particular matter, the first thing that he must prioritize, together with the president of the commission, the newly appointed president of the commission, is to re-engage the Alliance of Sahelian States. We must prioritize rebuilding dialogue with these countries. There are issues to be discussed with on trade, mobility, security coordination, counterterrorism interest, and all of that. And these are big issues. Following the exit of these three countries, we've not had any formal engagement between ECOWAS and the AES. And I think the second priority for me is to restore confidence in ECOWAS. As you rightly said, citizens are disenchanted with the outcomes of ECOWAS because of the double standards that we have seen over the past years, rebuking some coups. But then when it comes to some others, like extension of terms, manipulation of elections to go for term and all of those things, we've seen silence from ECOWAS. We've seen silence from ECOWAS when it comes to, what happened in Togo, right? Which was a constitutional coup. But ECOWAS, again, was silent on this matter. And all of these issues comes to affect the credibility of the region.
President Diomaye Faye is also navigating significant political and economic challenges in his own home country, Senegal. How might his domestic pressure affect his ability to provide effective regional leadership, particularly on security and democratic governance in the region?
That's a very important question because, first of all, he has to leverage all of this, but also think about the regional challenges. And I think one of the things that he can do, and I know that, he has already done a few weeks ago by the appointment of the president of ECOWAS, right? So I think that division of labor is very important. And for him as the chairperson of ECOWAS, really his role, of course, is symbolic, but the administrative role, the operational role, I think, should be taken over by the president of the commission. And thankfully, this person is a Senegalese. But he has to navigate all of these domestic pressures, but as well, think regionally as well.
Emmanuel Yeboah is a research analyst at Wadr. Now it's time for sports. We begin with basketball as Rwanda's Tigers Basketball Club have been crowned champions of the Basketball Africa League after edging Angola's Petro di Luanda 90 points to 88 in a thrilling final at the Kigali Arena. The victory marks a historic milestone as the Tigers become the first Rwandan team to win the Basketball Africa League title since the competition was launched. The triumph is even more remarkable because it came in the club's debut appearance in the tournament. The Tigers now succeed Libya's Al Ahly Tripoli as champions of the Basketball Africa League. And in football, Spain are the new FIFA World Cup champions after edging defending champions Argentina 1-0 in an extra-time thriller in New Jersey. Ferran Torres scored the decisive goal in the 106th minute, moments after Argentina were reduced to 10 men following Enzo Fernandez's second yellow card. The defeat ends Argentina's bid to becoming the first nation in 64 years to successfully defend the World Cup title. For Spain, it is a second World Cup crown, adding to their historic triumph in 2010, also secured with a 1-0 extra time victory. And that's the latest in the world of sports. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. Many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Joacino Capa Gomez for the technical support. I am Augustine Curley. Good afternoon.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.